Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of IDTALK4ED Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, and if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, I welcome you and I hope that today's episode is one that will have you coming back for more. If you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back, and I hope that today's episode is one that you will find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get to the main event, people, if you are on YouTube right now, please do me a favor, hit that red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. If you're listening from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for my people that want to help build this platform and give donations, there are 4 pathways to do so. The first is with Cash App with our handle $ IDTALK4ED. With Venmo, you can use our handle @KwameSM. If you use PayPal, you can use our URL, paypal.me/KwameSM. And finally, we have our new exclusive membership space on our website called The Forum. So for our day ones, for our people who have been listening to this podcast over the past 5 years and you love the content, consider being a Forum member. Through this membership, you'll be able to get access to early episodes, access to behind the scenes episodes, some extra perks along the way that will serve as a token of appreciation for all of the support you've given us. So find out more about that on our website, identitytalkforeducators.com, which is also where you could also find future and past episodes of our podcast. Now, for my readers who need to add some books to their summer reading list, please consider adding Learn to Relearn to that list. It is now a 2-time award-winning book, and we're just excited for all the support and the appreciation that's been given for this book. So I just want to thank people who have ordered a copy of the book, people who have spread the word about the book, people who have left reviews and given testimonials about the book, done selfies with the book. However you've supported, I don't take that for granted because it is very hard to promote books in general, particularly if you're an author who is independent or doesn't have the biggest platform. So any kind of support is appreciated. But for those who have yet to order their copy, make sure you go to either the Routledge website directly to get your copy, or you can go to Amazon or any other online book retailer. It is available now. And then to learn more about the book, you can go to learntorelearn.com to get more information. And once again, thank you. So, main event. I'm excited about this episode because, believe it or not, when I first started podcasting and doing what I've been doing for the past 5 years, you got to study people. You got to find blueprints. You got to learn from people that have been doing it and doing it at a high level. And this brother that I'm about to bring on is somebody who I learned so much from afar and admired from afar. And I was like, man, like he's got this super dope platform. Like I want to do that. Like I want to replicate some of this stuff and add that to my repertoire. So I'm excited to finally have him on. I've been able to be on his podcast on a couple of occasions, and he is one of the premier voices when it comes to education podcasting. He's one of the premier voices and been doing it for a long time. And I'm excited and honored to have here on our platform Dr. Sheldon Eakins. And he's going to come and talk about his journey. He's going to talk about his new book that's coming out in a few months and everything in between. So let's bring Sheldon on. Yes, sir, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on finally, man. How you feeling?
I'm good. It's been an interesting few weeks. Sadly, summer is almost over for us here, and so school is right around the corner. We gotta get ready to bring my kids back to school and get back into gear. So, took the kids shopping for some clothes and got them some shoes. Getting them ready. Yeah, it's right around the corner, man.
Yeah, man, it's that time. We have about a little less than a month left before our kids back to school here in Zambia.
Mhm.
So yeah, we definitely get that feeling. But brother, man, it's an honor to finally have you on.
Thank you.
Um, Funny, before we get into the main conversation, I do want to share this with you. So back in 20, yeah, it was 2020, around 2021, when I first came across the Leading Equity Center, it was you were doing a summit. It was a virtual summit that you were doing at the height of COVID.
Yep.
And that's when I first came across you and Leading Equity. And I was like, yo, this is a dope concept. Like a virtual summit. Everybody's at the crib. Everybody is social distancing. You can't leave your house. What a great way to deliver professional development. And at this time, IDTALK was barely over a year old. So
Mhm.
still trying to, build the consultancy up. So after being at that summit and seeing the presentations and everything, I said, man, shoot, I'm gonna do that. So I went ahead and I did a Stay True to Teaching You Summit. And the inspiration for that came from watching the Leading Equity Virtual Summit, being a part of
Wow.
that as an attendee. And I was like, man, like this is something that I could really do. But I just want to say thank you, man, for being that inspiration. And then just as somebody who has been doing this for a lot of years, man, I know how hard it is to record a podcast and find guests and do the research for the guest and do the editing and all the other things that come with that. So, man, salute to you for being at the forefront of doing all that.
Thank you. Can I tell you a story about that event?
Oh man.
Because
Yeah, please.
a little behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So, I want to give you a little context because
please.
during this time, I was living in Idaho. So I had
Remember.
just started leading equity as a result of being a black man living in Idaho, and just trying to navigate the world and just trying to put things together. Now, being in the state, they didn't want to hear any, like they weren't trying to hear me. So I was doing a lot of stuff virtually, or I was already kind of traveling a little bit. And so the idea of doing a virtual summit happened before COVID hit. So I was
Mhm.
already planning to do a virtual event, virtual summit months, because it took me, I think I started that around November. COVID happens around March, but I had already started recording interviews, like reached out to all the people that I wanted to learn from. And I developed a lot of topics that I wanted to, again, learn about, because selfishly, I was trying to figure out how to navigate life myself in addition
Sure.
to my own children. Right. And so
Yeah.
by the time the summit comes out, I believe the summit came out in January. It was just before the COVID happened. And when I tell you, the timing was just perfect. It was, again, purely coincidental with my thought process of putting this virtual summit together. But I had 15,000 people that signed up for that event, which catapulted the Leading Equity Center, because I coincided that with a online course that I put together, and then some other products. Like, I was just, again, timing. When I tell you, it was strictly
Mm.
timing. And it just all kind of rolled together. So I've had a lot of people that say, you know what, I've been following you for about 5 years from your virtual summit that took place. And I started doing one every year. I haven't done a summit in a while, just because things have kind of changed. And it just, again, the amount of legwork that it takes, you, like you said, just to put all that kind of stuff together, you know what it is. So,
It's a
but
lot.
yeah, yeah, I felt like I had to share that story, because it was purely like just, it just happened like that. It just worked out.
No, well, I appreciate you sharing that story and providing context because I know for a lot of people, when they saw the final result, I know they were really impressed
Yeah,
by that.
yeah.
But the amount of legwork that was required to get to that point, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I had, Zaretta Hammond was on my show on that event. I had Dr. Pedro
Hmm.
Noguera was on there. I had Cornelius Minor. Like I had a few people that in that time frame that, I looked up to. So kind of like what you're saying is like you saw the work that I was doing. I was looking at some of these other individuals myself, and I reached out to them again, and they were willing to jump on. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning
Okay.
because we all know Dr. Akins and Lean Equity, all the work you're doing now. Let's go back to young Sheldon.
Okay.
Let's talk about the upbringing, the genesis of everything. I want you to tell me a little bit about that and how you decided that education is what you wanted to focus on as a career.
Yeah, let's take it back. I grew up in
Yeah.
Houston, Texas, and that's hometown. And I enjoyed my upbringing in Houston, Texas. And I had a mixture between private school and public school. I probably did about half and half. About 6 years public, 6 years private school. 2 of those years was spent at a boarding school. Now I know sometimes you hear the term boarding school, and sometimes folks will be like, "Oh, well, he must have been a bad kid." It's not nothing like that. It was purely like a family tradition. So my dad and his brothers went to this particular boarding academy in Pennsylvania, and so me and my siblings, we all went there as well. And my senior year, I was at this school. It was a historically black boarding academy, and I had a teacher named Mr. Fielder. Mr. Fielder was also the basketball coach, in addition to the history teacher. And I mean, the way he could tell stories, just the way he was relatable, and just the way he carried himself, his demeanor, everything. I just like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be like just like this. And that was the first spark or idea of becoming a teacher. So I went on to college. I went to an HBCU. Shout out to Oakwood University out in Huntsville, Alabama, and I decided I was going to enroll and become a history teacher. That was the goal, was to become a history teacher. And then also I wanted to coach basketball. I was like, I want to do just like Mr. Fielder did. And yeah, that was kind of the origin of the idea of becoming a teacher, becoming into education. We don't enter into the space because we're trying to become millionaires and get rich and all these things. I've always loved kids. I've always enjoyed being around younger folks. I have a younger brother. Him and I are pretty close, and it's just one of those. Matter of fact, his birthday's tomorrow, so he just reminded me of that. But it's just always been in me. It's always been in me, and yeah. So I've been in education. Coming, this is year 17. I've had the
Wow.
opportunity to be a history teacher. I've taught second grade one year. That was interesting. I've been a school administrator. I've worked in higher education as well, and I've worked in all kind of settings, from urban to tribal communities to private communities, charter schools, to public schools. I've just been in a lot of spaces, and each time I learned from the communities that I'm working with. I learn from the individuals, the colleagues, the peers that I'm working with. Pick up as much information as I can and try to understand, here's who I am. However, maybe I'm a guest in someone's space, or maybe I am trying to learn about a community that's not the same as my own. I mean, I've had a lot of life lessons when it comes to education, and honestly, Kwame, I've made a lot of mistakes as well throughout that process. But I'm just very thankful to be at the place where I'm at these days.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. So you mentioned that you attended a prestigious private school and it was a tradition in your family. What I want to know is from that experience, did you ever experience any internal or external struggles as far as knowing who you were? Because from the sound of it, it sounded like you had a pretty strong and positive self image, given that this is your family's alma mater. So tell me a little bit more about just your time as a K-12 student in that setting.
I'm glad you brought that up. I would say this: take out the boarding school, because that's a whole different experience. Because for the boarding
Got you.
school, I I learned how to be a man very quickly. I went there 10th grade and the in my 12th grade year. When you're on your own, So I grew up in Texas. The boarding school was in Pennsylvania. So I saw my parents, my family twice a year, right? Those
Wow.
two years because they dropped me off in August. I came home for Christmas and then summer. That was it. And then this is during the days with pay. This is before cell phones, so it
Mm-hmm.
was pay phone style. These
Payphones. Yep.
right calling cards. So this is how I communicated with my parents. So you learn to be on your own at 15 years old, at 17 years old, and that taught me a lot of life lessons in regards to maturity, in regards to responsibility. Washing my own clothes, making sure I can get my hair cut, studying. you know there's nobody telling me, Sheldon, you need to go home, go back to your room and study. Like, that's on me. I had to learn those kind of things on my own. So that's a whole different experience for me. When it comes to identity, though, my years at public school, what really stands out to me was, see, I grew up in a very religious household. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say religious household, I was raised Seventh-day Adventist. So Seventh-day Adventist is not your typical. First of all, we go to church on Saturdays.
Saturdays.
So
Yep.
yeah, we go to church on Saturday. So
Yeah.
I had never been to a church on Sunday, but like all my peers, when I go to public school, everybody's talking about Sunday school. But we had Sabbath school, which is on Saturdays.
Mhm.
We Friday nights is our Sabbath. So when the sun sets on Friday to the sun sets on Saturday, that is our Sabbath. So just that alone, mixing in with the public school environment, was different for me. In addition to that, when it came to sports, a lot of sports activities happen on Friday nights or Saturdays, so I wasn't able to participate in a lot of those type of events. My parents did a lot of research on a lot of holidays that we traditionally celebrate, such as Christmas, Easter, Halloween, and those were activities that it wasn't able to necessarily participate in. So come winter break, I come back to school, everybody's talking about the latest toys that they got from Christmas, and I was like, oh yeah, well, I didn't get those things. But one of the things that my parents, I will give them a lot of credit for, was they tried to make us, me and my siblings, I guess, have some sort of connection to, if you will, the outside world. So rather than doing a lot of Christmas trees and doing the whole Christmas presents and all that stuff, we would take a lot of family trips. So I can remember, like, during winter breaks, we would go skiing, maybe, or maybe we went here or we went there. We took this trip. Those are some memories that I have that I hold dearly. So maybe we didn't have the gift opening sessions and the latest shoes or Nintendos and all that kind of stuff, but we kind of celebrated things a little different. But we did not trick or treat. So I have a particular story that just, I actually wrote it in my book. What are you bringing to the potluck? Or I talk about where there was a seventh grade. We had this event where the school said, we're going to show Casper the Friendly Ghost for the class, of seventh grade celebration. I don't know if it was like an end of year or something, but they were like, in order for us to show this movie, we have to get permission from your parents. So they gave us all permission slips that we had to take home, sign it, so we can watch Casper the Friendly Ghost. Now I take this home. My parents are like, Mom, we're not signing this. Like, we don't want you to watch Casper the Friendly Ghost because of a lot of religious beliefs and spirituality and ghosts and all that kind of thing. So I show up to school the day of, and everybody's turning in their permission slips, and I don't have anything. So I got placed into a room next door to the space where they're all watching the movie. So they're watching the movie in the room next door. I can hear it. We can hear the kids laughing, the whole thing. And I'm in the room with maybe two other people that forgot to bring their permission. I just didn't get permission. And that moment really stuck out to me when we're thinking about sense of belonging, because the importance of ensuring that all students feel accepted, supported, and included. And that was a moment for me where I was like, man, I wish there was at least an alternative, I don't know, activity, something else that we could have done, as opposed to just, okay, y'all just sit in this room for the next hour and a half and we'll come and get you when we're done. So that piece right there really helped me understand the importance of, maybe I should, like, I don't know, hide my identity. Like, I wasn't the biggest person that would talk about Bible stuff and all these things. I already felt a little embarrassed. I'll be honest. I felt a little embarrassed because no one else I knew was Seventh-day Adventist. It just wasn't a common religion around where I went, except for my church friends. Like that's all I had was just church friends. So it just really stood out to me when it comes to identity and just kind of fitting in to norms that are Christian based. Like let's keep it real in the United States, a lot of things are structured from a Christian standpoint, but when we dig into the denominations, then it gets a little bit tricky.
Are you ready to take your commitment to identity affirming education to the next level? Then join the forum, the new and exclusive membership space for the Identity Talk community. With membership tiers starting at $3 a month, you'll get early access to podcast episodes, bonus content, our Quam's Quotes monthly newsletter, and monthly live Q&A sessions. You'll also unlock discounts on workshops and products, engage in community discussions, access exclusive community and networking opportunities, and even business ad roles during episodes if you're a sponsor level member. Whether you're an ally, advocate, co-conspirator, accomplice, or a sponsor, there's a place for you in the forum. So head over to identitytalk4educators.com/pricing plans/list and join the movement today. Yeah, for sure, man. I actually had a childhood friend who was SDA, and I can remember we had to wait until Saturday afternoon to go to his house so we could go play because we'll be in church all morning. So yeah, so I definitely know about that. But you did mention your newest book, Where You Bring It to the Potluck, and you mentioned this to me after I did your podcast a few months ago. And when you told me the title, I was like, okay, this is different. You know, I'm a bit of a foodie, so it caught my attention immediately. But you could tell me, number one, what was the meaning behind the title? Why this title? And what motivated you to want to write this book at this particular time?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, that we spoke about this before, because the title was actually different. So originally, before I got got connected with Solution Tree, the original idea for this book was don't bring boxed macaroni to the potluck. And the reason why I had come up with that idea, so that was the original.
More specific. There you go.
Don't bring boxed macaroni to the potluck. And the reason why I came up with that concept was we're thinking about sense of belonging. And I did a lot of research during this time. Well, I can back up a little bit more because I've been doing a lot of equity work from my origin. Again, about was 2018 is when I first started doing a lot of this consulting stuff. And we started kind of going through a book ban opportunities and pushing back on DEI and all this stuff. And to me, in my mind, from all the conversations that I've had with all the podcast guests that's been on my show and just in communication with like-minded folks like yourself, we can all agree, whether we use semantics or not, we can all agree we want the best for our kids and we want students to succeed. Across the board, whatever your religious affiliation, political stance, whatever, we want our kids to thrive in school. And there's so much research that if we try to look at a common ground, if you will, we take out any type of quote unquote language that is triggering and all this stuff, boils down to we want kids need to feel safe, they need to feel secure, they need to have a sense of welcoming pride, if you will, when it comes to their schooling, and they're going to do better. Research supports that. That is not a political stance. That's bipartisan, if you will. So when I started doing a lot of research, started looking into, okay, well, what does it take for a student to feel as if they belong? And I came across some research from Goodnow, 1993, where he talks about support, inclusion, and acceptance. And so that was what I deemed as the formula in order to create a sense of belonging. And then I started thinking, okay, well, who's leading those schools, or who's going to probably be the most influential piece to a school when it comes to creating that sense of belonging, acceptance, supported, and inclusion? Well, it's the school leaders. I don't care what you say, whether you got a title or not. We have this designated chief culture person, or we have this designated DEI person, or this designated whatever. your school principal, your building leader is the chief DEI person, whatever you want to call it, right? Because they have access to the allocation of funds, professional development that's going to take place, what kind of programs, content, a lot of times content, curriculum, what they allow. So there's a lot of guiding in that direction. So that's who the book is written for. Is for school leaders, aspiring leaders, those who have leadership roles, because they are the driving force in regards to creating a sense of belonging. So going back to the potluck, when we think about a potluck, you bring in your best dish, right?
That's right.
You bring in, I will say I've gone to plenty of potlucks where it's nothing but carbs, seems like, or there's nothing but side dishes, right? Because everybody's bringing in the yams or whatever it is, but you don't see a lot of the, there's sometimes if it's not, or if you don't organize a potluck, you're just going to get a bunch of randos, right?
Sure.
But when we put a lot of care, a lot of emphasis into that famous dish that we do, we know that Mr. Jones has come in and he always brings in that banana pudding that, I mean, I can just taste it. Oh, Mr. Jones is coming to the potluck. Oh, I can't wait to taste some of his banana pudding. Or Miss Williams is coming in. She always brings the best lasagna, right? These are things that sometimes we look forward to. But then there's always where we're talking about time. Maybe we're talking about maybe a lot of emphasis, maybe emphasis on time, or just don't have enough to put something together. And so we go into our cupboards and we grab a box of macaroni. Now, here's the thing. People will say, oh, well, you're supposed to be the equity guy, Sheldon. So, maybe that's all I had was a box of macaroni. I want folks that are listening, that are watching this, to think from a metaphorical standpoint, not take it from a literal stance. Because if we're not intentional with our efforts with creating a sense of belonging, it's almost as if we're bringing in boxed macaroni to a pot where there's not a lot of intentionality. It might be a rush job. It might take you 15 minutes to put that together. Boil some water, put the noodles in, mix it up with the powder, and you're good to go. That's not the approach that we want to take when it comes to creating a sense of belonging for our students. We want to be intentional. We want to be known for our efforts. We want to, when we think of our name, when someone says the principal, such and such, whatever their name is, what are some things that are going to come to mind? Are they going to be, oh yeah, that person just kind of does what they got to do? Or this person is very intentional with their efforts to create a culture, to create a space in which all students feel as if they're accepted, supported, and included. So again, take out the literal name or the thought process when it comes to box macaroni. And that was the reason why it changed, because when we did a lot of the peer reviews, people kept getting stuck on, well, what if that's all I have to make? And so, or I really like box macaroni. So we changed it to, what are you bringing to the potluck? But that was the original name, and that was the original emphasis or the thought process behind that. We have to be intentional with our efforts. We have to make sure that we're meeting individual needs and making sure that each student feels as if they're accepted, supported, and included.
And as I'm thinking about the concept of a potluck, just by you using the term potluck alone, you're already setting the tone for what this book's going to be about. Because when you look at a lot of different schools, you may have school leaders who come with more of a paternalistic mindset, right? Where, following this metaphor, they probably cook all the dishes and then y'all just come on and eat.
Yeah.
And they don't care if you like the dish or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we were growing up, when your mama made some dishes and you had vegetables, and she said, "Boy, you better eat them vegetables."
Right.
You know you don't eat the vegetables, but you're forced to eat it and stomach it because that's what your mama told you to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her word was law. And I feel like you have some school leaders who act like dictators
Mm-hmm.
and kind of follow in that in that same way. But following this, I'm wondering for you, when we think about the potluck and still along the lines of the metaphor, what are some of the dishes or contributions that school leaders often overlook when they're bringing their dishes to the potluck for their school community?
I would say the number one thing that we often, and again, I'm always on a best intentions. You miss this. It's just something that just wasn't on your radar. is
Sure.
we forget to ask kids how are they feeling, how are they experiencing school. We sometimes believe that we know what they need. We believe that we know how their experiences are. Sometimes we'll just ask the popular kids, the kids that we have good relationships with, the students that we see in the hallway. We don't always ask the quiet student that doesn't really say much, or the student that just came in from another country that's trying to navigate the language and also customs and practices. We don't just pull them in for maybe a focus group or just ask those simple questions. So I think that's sometimes that's the best place to start is to ask. And
Hmm.
I know sometimes it's hard because the feedback that you might get can be harsh. When
Hmm.
you create a space when you're asking your students, look, this is anonymous or there's no repercussions. We really want to know how you feel, and we create some sort of survey boxes throughout the school hallways and in the office. You can just drop your little note there, or there's a QR code that you scan and fill out a survey. Again, all of this anonymous, and then we check those things and we see, oh my goodness, I legit thought that this event that I planned was like a really good event and it was very helpful, but the feedback that I'm getting says otherwise. Or I really thought that the way that we communicate to parents was very effective, but then we realized, oh shoot, based off of this feedback, one, no one reading it. They didn't even
Right.
know we had a newsletter, and you know what I'm saying, like there's all these different things that we think as school leaders we think that these things are effective, yet we don't really take that time to ask the students. I've experienced things as a parent and then also as a staff member, and it's two different experiences. Because as a parent, I can see what kind of communication goes out, but again, I consider myself an involved parent and a parent that's like has the time to keep up with everything that's going on versus a parent that doesn't have the education background, that's working 2 3 shifts, that just
Right.
doesn't have the same kind of resources or access to those resources to keep up. Doesn't mean that they don't care about their kids. It's just their
Right.
situation is different. So I say starting there is the first thing that comes to mind. And then there's always like the little things. Like, are we celebrating all students? Or are we only celebrating or recognizing the popular kids or the athletic kids or the academically, like all of those things really do matter. My example in regards to what I mentioned earlier about my experience not being able to watch a movie because of my parents or our belief. I'm not going to just say my parents' beliefs because that in that household, things are a little
Yes.
different nowadays. But at that time, like I understood why they said no, and of course I was a little bummed out. But not having an alternative or not having something to where like okay, don't punish a student because they couldn't get their parents' permission. It's one thing if I forgot to turn in my slip, but I tried to get it that permission done. It just they said no. So don't punish me on top. Like I'm already bummed that I
Yeah.
can't watch the video, and you're punishing me because you know what I'm saying. Like those little things that we don't think about and how that impacts the students' experience and their I don't know motivation to or
Mhm.
inspiration rather to really do well in school when these little things happen and it let's just say that was a one-off for me but maybe there's a student that's experienced multiple times where there's different things they can't participate in because it falls on an hour the day that's a holiday or a sabbath all these little different things that they can't participate and how that impacts them.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we've been talking about dishes, but as you're mentioning these different elements,
Mhm.
I want to talk about the condiments, right?
Okay.
Now
Okay.
stay with me here.
Okay, I'm with you.
I'm just thinking about this.
Okay.
So often when we go to a potluck,
Mhm.
we focus on the big dishes, the the big course meals, but there's something missing from those meals. And sometimes it's those condiments that give it a little bit of flavor that take the meal to the next level. So, thinking in regards to education leadership, I believe that there are certain condiments that you need to bring to the potluck in order to either enhance the flavor of the dishes or just enhance the overall eating experience or communal experience of that
Mm,
potluck.
mm.
So, thinking along those lines, what do you think are those condiments that are necessary for us to bring to a potluck from a school leader perspective?
Here's a controversial. I don't even want to call it controversial. It has its. It has its. I've heard pushback, but the first thought that came to my mind when it came to condiments was affinity spaces. I think
Okay.
sometimes they get a bad rep because people don't understand the importance of affinity spaces. When you're in
Yeah.
an environment where you readily see folks that look like you, where you readily can communicate, have like-minded conversations, understand people's backgrounds, understand how someone emotionally connects to certain events that take place within the news, within the world, within your community, your neighborhood, those kind of things. You have access to that all the time.
Mhm.
Naturally, you're going to do well in school just based off of the affinities that are there, the affiliations, and you see your classmates in other places. You see teachers that look like you. There's so many connections that are there. But when you don't have those type of things, so now you're challenged. But then you're also asked to do well in school, but you don't have that connection. I remember the day when I want to say it was George Floyd. No, it wasn't George Floyd. It was I think it was Michael Brown, when Michael Brown was gunned down by the
Yeah,
police,
yeah.
and I was working in a space where I honestly I came to work the next day, and I had nobody. Like I didn't feel like I had anybody I could talk to about it.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm a black male, and I'm thinking about some of my experiences that I've had, and I wanted someone to talk to. And I just remember feeling helpless, like, oh, I didn't have anybody to speak to. Yet again, I'm at work, so I'm still expected to perform well, and still expected to do my job responsibilities and all these different things. And so when I think about students that are in spaces where they're the only ones, and I talk about in my book about the embracing culture. The embracing culture is that assimilation process where it's like, okay, here's what our school norms are, and they're unspoken rules, not necessarily the policy handbook kind of things, but just the unspoken rules, the norms, if you will, to fit in to a school. And you don't have so you had to kind of put away that identity, put away some of the things that you normally would do because of, well, if I be myself, my full self, then I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to feel embraced. But creating those affinity spaces provides those opportunities for students to get together, to connect, to share. Um, but it's fearful for a lot of administrators who don't understand the importance of these things. It's just not. Some people, I've literally had someone say, this is just an opening or opportunity for you to create a coup, because you're going to get all these, let's say, quote unquote, let's call it the Black Students Association. You get them together and they're going to revolt and riot against the school. So I don't want to create that space, but I'm like, you're looking at it differently. And the fact that that, or you suspect that if students that are get together in this way are going to basically highlight the challenges within your school, to me, you should take the time to listen to them and see what kind of support you can provide. So I like to start there when it comes to condiments, if you will, is creating the affinity spaces. It's not further segregation. It's not because people will say that, oh, you're further segregating. And my example that I always push back with is, we don't have a problem with creating chess clubs,
Yeah.
when it comes to book clubs, when we talk about different things where someone has a specific affinity or robotics, whatever it is, we have no problem with it. But when we start bringing race into it and we say, well, let's do an LGBTQ maybe, or let's do Hispanic, or let's do this or that, that's when things start to become an issue. Is it really that being the issue, or is it something else that we don't want to really talk about? Because I don't see it as segregation. I just see it as providing a space in which students can feel like they can really be themselves during this 1 hour or whatever it is that they have allocated towards them. They can really be themselves and be able to share with one another. and then go back to that space where it's whole school, go back to your classrooms, those kind of things. But that's the first condiment that comes. That it's, I don't know. That's the ketchup to your hot dog. I don't know, but that would be it to me, a condiment that comes to mind.
Hi friends, it's me, Thaddeus from Thaddeus Nature Notebook. Are you loving our journey into the wild and learning all about awesome animals? Then don't forget to subscribe. You can find Thaddeus Nature Notebook on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and never miss a new episode. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about your favorite animal. Thanks for listening and exploring nature with me. Let's keep discovering together. Now back to my daddy's self.
Yeah, and I think with affinity spaces, the same people that criticize affinity spaces are the same ones that poo-poo on the idea of restorative justice. And ultimately, it goes back to the idea of students. I mean, they have voices already, but students being able to activate their voice and be able to express their concerns about what they see within the school community. And the reality is, you do have a subgroup of school leaders who don't want to see students activate that voice. They want to keep students in a certain place so that they can operate the school in the fashion that they want to. So I do believe that there is some pushback because of that maintenance of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy that you had to bring that up, because at the end of the day, if you're leading without listening to the voice, I think that's the best. Because I hate when people say, "Oh, I want to give students voice." No, they can speak. They
Have a voice,
are you
right?
listening to them, right?
Exactly.
But then we'll say we'll listen to their voice when we're ready. Or, oh, well, come see me during these office hours, or we'll plan an event next week. We got to get through finals right now, or we're still doing quarter. We're wrapping things up. We got exams. No, why can't a student come to you? And even if you, again, I get from an administrator side of things, there's things that we have to do. But if you don't create spaces where maybe they can anonymously put in a note to you, or send an email to you, or create multiple opportunities for that voice to be heard, because you're not giving them voice. Just the fact that you're saying that you're giving someone a voice, to me, is problematic. You are listening to those voices, you're amplifying those voices,
Right.
and you're really providing that care for students that need your support. Because again, as a school leader, you are the chief. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, justice, whatever acronyms we want to use, that's you. And you got to be able to provide those opportunities for them.
And given the current context we're in, now I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think for people who are listening to this episode, they're in agreement with what you're saying as well. Now we have to look at the reality that we're in right now, with our current administration, a lot of the censoring, a lot of the legislation that's being put out there that's making it difficult to engage in what we're proposing here. So I'm wondering, just from your leadership experience, what are some of those fears or concerns that school leaders are sharing regarding the equity work that's necessary within school communities that they're leading?
I mean, it's exactly what you just said. The fun, like, there's all this. That I would start here. The fear. There's actually a couple things, but the one that just kind of touches on what you were talking about is the fear that I could lose funding by
Yes,
pushing certain initiatives. I
that's
had a
right.
lot of school leaders talk to me like, "Well, the state is threatening to remove Title I funds, or these funds, or whatever funds, because they are coming across as DI related." And so I know that there's a group of students that could benefit from some support. So I need to keep my mouth closed and just go along with it, so that I can try to continue to get this funding, because I could either lose the funding that's going to benefit the entire school, or I can go ahead and speak my mind, or speak on behalf or advocate for the small sector of students, but then I could lose out on so much more. That's probably the biggest challenge that I'm hearing from a lot of school leaders is the fear of losing funding or even political stance. Whatever we want to say it or not, school leadership, your place in a school, your role, the way you're viewed, is political, right? The
Yes.
things you say are impacting your ability to move up in a game. So if you have aspirations to maybe become a superintendent or maybe do something else, move into the district office, and you're always the one that's ruffling feathers, that kind of reputation, that might impact you in a negative way as far as your professional career, then yeah, there's going to be some silence on your end. Here's my response that I always give to individuals who are fearful of funding loss or their status or whatever it is, or their job. Let's just call it your job,
Sure.
because you got bills to pay. Use your
That's right.
students. We literally just got done talking about amplifying student voice. I said your kids cannot get fired. They will not get fired. So if you have student government, and I've supported schools that have taken the time to listen. Again, they have a voice. So they've taken the time to listen to their students, and we do a lot of affinity group spaces where we'll talk to the students. We'll get student leaders and things like that. We'll get them together, and we'll ask them. Money isn't an issue. Perfect world, dream, opportunities, experiences at your school. What would that look like? We start there.
Yeah.
So the students come together and they say, okay, here's a few challenges that we're facing. If we could change some things, this is what we would want to change. And from there, we help students create plans and ideas, as do research and put that together. So, for example, there's a school out in on the East Coast. I think they're out in the Boston area. They had some challenges. It's a high school. One of the challenges was the school lunches that were provided were not kosher. They also were not. What is the one for Muslims that halal? So it wasn't.
Halal.
It wasn't halal. It wasn't kosher. And of course, you had vegans, vegetarians, so dietary restrictions. But they were all serving the same lunch. So that was one challenge that they had. They also had a group of Muslim students that needed a place to pray during the school day. They were giving a space, but the space that they were given was not ideal. So they were given kind of like it wasn't a janitor's closet, but it was like an empty room that was basically a storage room now. In order for them to access the key, because the door was locked, so they had to access the key. They had to go to another classroom, interrupt the teacher, ask her for the key, assuming she was in the room, of course, ask her for the key, and then go to that space, which was kind of, again, clearly an extra room that was available. Wasn't ideal. So we worked with the students with creating a PowerPoint that they were going to present to the school leader, and we rehearsed it and everything, slides, and say here's pictures of the space. Here's they actually did. We helped them do a student survey, so we pass out surveys throughout the school. Students respond about the lunch and their experiences with lunch. So now we have all this data collectors, not just the four of us or the small group of us saying this. This is what the school body is saying in regards to lunches, and this is what the students are saying in regards to their prayer, their place for their. We presented this to them. And then we provided solutions, because that's always the other thing, right? It's just like, oh, we got all these problems, and the principal has a million things they're trying to figure out already, and then now you just added something more onto their plate. So not only did we highlight these things, but we also provided solutions. Here's a few options that would help our experience be better. Present that to the school administration. They take that in. So now every year, we've been working with them for 3 years now. Every year, this has become more accepting, because of course at first year as a principal, like, it's harsh to hear, but now okay, I think, or I perceive school to be a certain way for my students, but now they're presenting this in a way that I can be open to this feedback. I accept this feedback, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make those changes. So student-led changes, student-led initiatives is the way to go. If you are in those positions where you're afraid of funding or other issues, your students won't get fired. Your students have a lot of pull if you listen to them and provide those spaces and opportunities for them to thrive.
And I want to make sure I add this for people who are listening and viewing, because we hear this term indoctrination thrown around and people don't quite understand what the term actually means. So what you just described here, this situation with this school that you've been working with in Boston, you only provided the scaffolding
Mm-hmm.
for that group.
Yeah.
They already came with the ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They came with the issues. They came with the evidence, the data. You just helped with the formatting of it.
Yeah.
And how to deliver the message to their principal,
Yep.
which was still their words, their thoughts, their intellectual property, if you will.
Yeah.
Because I can see
Yeah.
people hearing your story and saying, see, just like y'all trying to do those affinity groups. See how you're trying to put ideas in their head?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's
Yeah.
I thank you for saying that, because you're absolutely right. This was the kids. They wanted change. They came to
Right.
us wanting change. They didn't know how. They're kids, 15, 16 years old. So they don't have the experience. They don't know. They're like, we need a place to pray, and we need lunches that are acceptable for all the different types of palates, if you will. Maybe palate's not the best word, but just the different restrictions that we might have when it comes to diet. We need that changed, but we don't know how to get the administration's attention, and we don't know how to present this to the administration. So we supported them in that role, but this was their ideas. This was the work they did. They created their own surveys and distributed, and the school was aware that they were giving these surveys out, because that was school approved. So like, there's different things that we just provided from our own experience as leaders, as individuals who do this work on a daily basis. Of course, I'm able to provide an administrator's lens. So I would say, literally say, if I was the principal, this is how I would view it. And so they could take that feedback and put together this presentation. But yeah, it's not a matter of indoctrination. It's just literally providing, like you said, scaffolding for the students to be able to present some information. And ultimately, it's up to the administration to accept it or not. Right? We're not twisting arms. We're not threatening. We're literally presenting this information. Here's our experience. Here's what we're asking or requesting to have changed. Here's some suggestions on how to change it. It's on you to take that feedback.
And I think the more students apply pressure on that school leader, the more they'll feel like they'll have to make that change. So that's why it's important to channel that energy through the students, because ultimately, well, we should be doing this work because of the students. That's why we got into
Right.
education in the first place, because of our love for students.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's the source of it. But I see that we're about to approach the hour, Sheldon, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to talk about Purposeful Teaching Academy,
Yeah.
because I believe that this is something that's very important, especially when we talk about the way in which we develop school leaders in our program. So please, if you could just give a little bit about what Purposeful Teaching Academy is and why this initiative, because I believe it's really important, especially now, given what's happening.
Yeah, it's. I agree. So here's the thing. I came up with Purposeful Teaching Academy as a result, I would say, right after George Floyd, because we had a lot of, everybody was anti-racist and everybody was anti-bias. And we saw a lot of that. And then we turned around and saw a lot of pushback on that. Dr. Kennedy's work, How to Be an Anti-Racist. You had Dr. Robin DiAngelo's work, White Fragility. These were you couldn't find these books on the shelves. And then, of course, circle back, then you started hearing critical race theory and just like all these different things that started to come about. And again, my thought has always been, whether your political background, whatever your affiliation, whatever your beliefs are, we want our kids to succeed. But we have to be intentional with those practices. We have to be purposeful with those practices. So I started a Purposeful Teaching Academy, which was kind of like a branch of the work I was doing on Leading Equity Center. I'll be honest with you, Kwame. There's been times where I've lost contracts because leading equity. Oh, you have the word equity within your name, and so that can be a challenge. Again, going back to individuals who are worried about funding, who are worried about uh, being able to do certain things because of semantics. When I think
Sure,
about it,
sure.
it's semantics. So,
Yes.
Purposeful Teaching Academy is a series of workshops, a series of content centered around belonging, in which we're looking at what teaching practices, what leading practices that are out there that are research based, that aren't just Sheldon telling you, Dr. Akins is saying these things. But these are things that are tried and true. These are things that we may not have considered. These are things that we really want to focus on when we're wanting to be intentional with our efforts to increase opportunities for students to thrive in our schools. So that's
Yes.
what Purposeful Teaching Academy is for. Um, I'm actually transitioning out of the Leading Equity Center and moving more into the Purposeful Teaching. It is an opportunity for folks. I don't want to lose opportunities to work with students and support students because of names, because of things that really, to me, when you just, I don't know, excuses, if you will, to not be able to get this work done. I think we all agree we want students to be successful.
I appreciate you sharing about that. And last question before we wrap up, and it's a question I ask everybody on this podcast. How do you continue to stay true to the teacher in you?
I'm constantly learning. I mean, I've been doing podcasting for since 2020, 2019. Was it 2019? 20. I'm almost on episode 400 at this point, and that's what keeps me relevant. That's what keeps me understanding what's happening. And I will continue to learn from others like yourself, other opportunities. I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of some amazing individuals that have brought a wealth of knowledge, and I would not have the kind of knowledge I have had it not been for some of my guests that have been on the show.
Yes. And I thank you for once again being somebody that has provided in many ways a blueprint for folks like myself to even want to get into this podcasting space and provide a voice to other educators who also are coming with a lot of the same issues that they're experiencing in their schools. So I appreciate you for even providing that inspiration to other folks. So as we're starting to wrap things up, I want to give you a chance to let people know how they can connect with you on social media, how they can connect with the Purposeful Teaching Academy, and also how can they pre-order a copy? I think it's you can pre-order the copy
Yep.
of the book now, right? How
Yep.
can we pre-order a copy of What Are You Bringing to the Potluck?
Yeah, you can find me at Sheldon Eakins. Sheldon Eakins, Eakins. It looks like Eakins, but it's Eakins at Sheldon Eakins on Instagram. Also, you can find me my website, which is purposeful247.com. The book will be out on Solution Tree, so you can go to Solution Tree and pre-order it there, or you can go to Amazon and pick it up from Amazon as well.
All right. Y'all heard it from Sheldon himself. So we're going to wrap up another episode of IDTALK4ED Educators Live. And on behalf of Dr. Sheldon Eakins, I want to wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good night wherever you are in the world. And we are going to do this again another time. Peace out, everybody.